Hey, my name is Matt Storr and I repair saxophones for a living, and here is a tip. When you're overhauling a saxophone, it's a good idea when you're putting the horn back together for the first time, without any pads or adjustment materials in it, to take a look at the inherent adjustments. And what that means is take a look at where the keys are set relative to each other. What we're looking at here is the lower stack of a Mark 6 tenor. And I'm holding the back of the F sharp key down, and I'm pressing the F, the E, and the D down against it without any adjustment material in the back to see where everything is. And as we can see here, the E and the D have about the same relationship with the F sharp, that you can tell that they are about the same distance away from the tone hole. The F sharp is necessarily a little bit higher. That gives us room for an adjustment material in the back later, but the F is actually much farther down. And what that means is that if I were to put this horn back together, that the piece of adjustment material on the F would be much thicker than the piece of adjustment material on the back of the E and the D in order to close the F sharp. And it's much easier to have adjustment materials that are similar in thickness than ones that are much different. Not only does it look a lot better, I think it actually makes for a better long-lasting job. So what we're going to do here is actually change the relationship between the F and the F sharp. Now, what I'm talking about when I say your adjustment materials here is on the back here, this is the bar for the F sharp, right? And you have a piece of adjustment material on the top of your F here, on the top of the E here, and the top of the D here. And that's what controls the relationship between those keys and closes the F sharp. So what I want is to bend the F so that the relationship between this and this is about the same as between this and this and this and this. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take a little piece of paperboard, and this comes off the razor blades I use. Come on, one-handed finagling. All right, there we go. And that keeps me from marring the surface when I bend this. And I'm going to just lift this up just a little bit from underneath, trying to support it as well as I can and make it nice and even. Okay, now let's see how that looks. Much better. I might have gone a tiny bit far, and that's okay. Actually, metal has memory, so it's really good if once you bend it up or down or wherever you put it to, you bend it back the direction you came just a little bit. You really don't need too much pressure, and that'll kind of relieve the stress in the metal. That looks a bit better. I think I still want a little more. Okay, that looks pretty good to me. Now, it's much better to do this before you have any of your pads in for two reasons. One, if you've put your pads in and you've already seated them, then you're necessarily going to change at least a little bit the relationship between the key cup and the horn, and you're not going to have as good of a pad seat as you did before. Two, metal has memory, like I said, so doing this now gives it a little bit of time to relax before I do my pad work. And I guess the third reason would be that you can, especially if you fit the keys or if the keys were close to binding before, then when you bend a key like that, you can introduce binding. Let's see if this one is a little bit sluggish. Yeah, it's a little sluggish, so I'm actually going to refit this key just a little bit. It's not bad. I mean, it's still moving under its own weight, but it's not quite as loose as it should be, right? And so just that little tiny bit of bending made this bind a little tiny bit, and I'm going to have to fix that before I go forward. So what we just did here was we made sure that our keys are in good places relative to each other, so that when I do the pad work and the adjustment work, it's going to be a lot easier to put it together, and I don't have to bend any keys after I've done my pad work. Hope this was helpful, useful, informative. My name is Matt Storr. I repair saxophones for a living. Feel free to leave a comment or question below, or email me, or give me a call. Thanks for watching. Oh yeah, and in case you're curious, this is what the key looks like just after about, 5 seconds of refitting. Typically, you shouldn't be having like major binding issues. They might be really minor ones. If you've got major binding issues, you've got something else going on. But thought you might like to see that's what it looks like just after a few seconds of key fitting.